All right, we are here. What is up, everybody? It's Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe Show, the home of Epic Conversations, and I'm the host of Epic Conversations 2020. Let me get it right. 2018 Innovation Award winner and 2020 Best Podcast News Award winner given out by the Canadian Ethnic Media Association. I also co-host and co-produce the only online show in the world for dads, fathers, and male caregivers. It's sponsored by Dove Men Plus Care. And being part of that movement, we've reached out directly and indirectly since 2020 to over 400,000 dads, fathers, and male caregivers around the world. And as always, I like to say you're blessed, highly favored, a magnet for miracles, and a solution for someone's problem. We're broadcasting live on September 28th, the last Sunday in Septembre, as they would say en français, and you're watching Black Canada Talking. And we're here with Cesar Ndema-Moussa. What is up, Cesar?
Dr. Vibe, dear sisters and brothers, dear allies, thank you. Thanks for having me as always. I'm okay, sorry, running a little bit, end of September, good weather, the family is out, they got family activities, so trying to rush left and right while, we also doing, my wife is doing some home remodeling,
Oh,
so
okay.
yeah. It's not easy, I will be very honest, it can lead to arguments, but, oh yeah. Um, but it gives me an opportunity to remind our people communication, indifferences, saying good night, I love you. These type of things go a longer way than whatever position that you have, you feel justified. And of course, being able to recenter, apologize, and, recommunicate and recommunicate again and again.
Nice. Very nice. Good to hear. Good to hear, Cesar. What has been going on well, yes, the weather's been spectacular the last few days where you are and where I am. It's been very, very nice. What's been going on in your world otherwise than remodeling?
Dr. Vibe, lots of things. So the week that's coming, I have a board meeting regarding the mental health board that I sit on because see the impacts of COVID, the social isolation, but also, all the inflation slash socioeconomic issues rising, impacting people and the mental health stress level. Um, Also, with Roots and Culture Canada, we are making waves in regarding to crime, youth crime prevention. So, some big meetings happening this Tuesday for us with different partners, community partners, police, etc. As you are always making strides to address those issues. And oh yes, before I forget, Dr. Vibe, I will be in your part of the country um, Thursday night. Yes, I will be in Scarborough Thursday night,
Oh,
and Friday morning I will be downtown Toronto for a day-long meeting. So yeah,
okay. So offline, we have to communicate because I have a place that we can go to that's very good in Scarborough. We can go and sit down and catch some food.
let's make it quick. Do you know this Ghanaian? I always say Nigerian, but I think the Ghanaian, the Suya spot.
I haven't been there for a long time, but I've been there.
My brother, earlier in the year, earlier in the year, I ordered from there, and I will tell you, and I'm really embarrassed to admit this, but you would think someone who stays in hotels as often as I do would not forget his this amazing meal that he had in the fridge of the hotel. I did. I did. That's how good it was. I
well,
remember that.
Well, depending where you're staying, there's another spot that I like that I go to. And so let me tell you something. I was there with Roger Dundas
Mm.
on Thursday evening, and Roger, for people who don't know, Roger Dundas, him and his wonderful wife Camille are the publishers of BuyBlacks.com, Black
Okay.
Canada's number one online magazine. Black Canada's number one, and he has been to over 300 black-owned restaurants across
Oh,
Canada,
respect. Respect,
and he
yeah.
had not been to this one. So he took it and goes, he said, "This is on point." It was on point. So we have a choice of two spaces. So we got to make this Thursday thing happen, my brother.
Thursday night. hopefully Rockville. So hopefully I can make it by 8, no later than 9 p.m.
Oh, they're open till midnight.
Good,
It's a
good.
done deal. No, I'm gonna put in the calendar right after we finish our conversation today. And what is the conference or event that you're attending in Toronto this Friday?
It shall be a day-long meeting regarding um, anti-colonial equity roundtable of the province of
Okay.
Ontario in regards to professionals and leaders, management, and senior leaders in child welfare.
Okay. No, that's
So that will
fantastic.
be I will be there for that one. Unfortunately, I won't be able to be present on the 16th because there will be that's not in Toronto, in Whitby. There will be a big provincial meeting for Black child welfare worker in Whitby.
Oh, wow.
Um, yes, it's provincial in person. Very important. We too often, and this is across sectors. As being a consultant, I am honored with being able to tap into different sectors. We too often forget the weight, struggles, and challenges, but also the resilience of professionals, especially Black professionals in those sectors in which, notably when we look at the province of Ontario, sometimes you may have an office that only has one Black professional. And,
Mhm.
you know, and I mean, and I'm not like, this is on the four corners of the province. So it's easy in Ontario for people to think, oh, he's probably talking about Northern Ontario, where there's a small Black presence, if not none, in certain parts. No, this is across the province. And let's be honest, sometimes just because you have uh, X Y number of Black staff does not mean you don't have anti Black racism, just as it does not mean that just because you do have Black staff, that there is a Black mindset, a Black support. And important to remember, just because there's Black staff does not mean you ally a non-Black white person cannot be more of an ally than even those who look like you, aka not all skin folk are kin folk. We have to be honest. I've experienced all three of these experiences that I'm telling you. I have experienced all of them in my professional life.
Well, it also comes down to a thing of symbolism versus substance too.
Oh, absolutely, my brother. Absolutely. And too often we tend to look at the symbolism, the image. We tend to make assumptions that because X, Y, and Z looks like us, therefore they are on our side. They can understand us. But too often the nature of systemic racism, but also of integration, makes it that too many staff, white, Black, whatever the color, whatever the gender, but too many, notably in minorities, have to wear a mask for survival, code switching, etc., etc. And as such, it can be adding to the detriment, to the challenges, psycho-emotional, the mental health aspect, the psychological safety of surviving the workplace.
Well said. So we are going to go to break, and in a few
Mhm.
moments, when we come back, we'll do some housework, and then we'll get into, as always, three epic conversation topics on Black Canada Talking. We'll catch you back in about 30 seconds. Black Men Can Talk, a show where Black Canadian men come together to have real and filtered conversations about life, culture, and community.
When you speak with brothers who are not necessarily connected to community, they often think to themselves, what can I do?
You look and you compare yourself to everything on that screen and you're feeling bad about yourself.
Look at it as what opportunities can this particular challenge bring?
For it to be publicized, young people have to be at the forefront and not just tokenizing those conversations.
We are back, and you can catch Black Men Can Talk Sunday evenings at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific with myself, Kofi Sadat, and Kofi Morris. We share about different conversation topics along with guests a lot too from a Black Canadian male perspective. So that's what we do. All right, some houseworking stuff. Always, please subscribe to the Dr. Vibe Show on YouTube and hit the notification button. And also like the Dr. Vibe Show on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, and Substack. Also, if you want to advertise your business, product, or service on any of the platforms that I'm on, please email me at dr.vibe at the drvibeshow.com. Indie Soup TV. That is an independent content creators platform run by our good friend Dr. Tachi out of Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Has about 25 to 30 independent content creators. Excuse me. And also, it's only been around for about 19 months, has over 28,000 subscribers on that YouTube channel. There's a lot of content that I do that's on that platform. And I always have to tell people or share with people, only 4% of all YouTube channels have 10,000 subscribers. So you know that Dr. Tachi is doing something right if that is going on. And two, if you want to get in contact with Cesar, you can email him at president@Roots and Culture Canada. Also, you can catch him on Facebook at Cesar Remy Emery. And if you are watching live and you would like to hear your voice or share your voice with us in real time audio wise, on a smartphone, on a laptop, desktop, tablet, go to your favorite browser and go to callme.road.com. And you know what I'm going to do actually? What we're going to do is actually going to show you what that looks like. So let me put it over here. So when you go to callme.road.com, as you see up on the screen here, you'll go to this screen. And initially when you come to it, it's going to probably look like this. What you need to do is make sure the echo cancellation is on, the automatic mic gain is on, put your name in, and then you just click on join the call. I'll see that you're calling in, and we will make room for you to share your epic conversation pieces. All right? So that's callme.road.com and put in the code FSP-L8L, your name, and you are good to go. With all that stuff done out of the way, oh, look who is here. Dr. Tachi is in the house. What is up, Dr. Tachi? You know we always have room for you if you want to call in. And also, if people couldn't get all the information, it's up in the corner. Also, if you have a smartphone, you can swipe and get in on the conversation. And there's another comment here. I'm going to bring that up in just a second because it does apply to our first conversation piece, which is our first conversation piece, Pan-Africanism, Sahel countries, Assata Shakur, Forgotten Blacks. Cesar, what are your thoughts?
Dr. Vibe, it's important for us as a Black community. So my vision of Pan-Africanism kind of has our leaders behind me is one that's global. We cannot not only divide ourselves into some of the rhetorics of African Americans versus Africans, or even just acting according to maps made by others. Example, Blacks in Ontario versus Blacks in Quebec, things like that, or, Black Democrats, Black Republicans. So when I speak about Pan-Africanism, it's absolutely from a global lens, aka let us not forget those of our brothers and sisters who don't make it to the news. And as such, I'd like to start with our elder sister, Assata Shakur, who has passed over the weekend. We are Sunday, so I can't remember exactly. I want to say it was Thursday or maybe Friday morning, but I did announce it in meetings on Friday. Let me be blunt here. We can disagree with some of the ways or whatever tactics of Assata Shakur and other revolutionary blacks. I'm saying this in terms of Assata Shakur because, if I recall, she may have murdered. I'm saying may. I don't know exactly. She may have murdered a white police officer, which notably led to her escaping, becoming a refugee in Cuba. But we cannot disagree with the fact that these black people, and it gives me a great opportunity to speak about an ally that maybe many of our people, most of our people may have never heard about, Marilyn Burke, a white woman. So those revolutionaries in the Black Pride era, late 60s and 70s, they fought with very much a white supremacy state, um, as we see now, if not more violent. Let us not forget we are talking about a time in terms of which not only some of our great leaders, Medgar Evers, Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, were assassinated, but even the younger ones, aka Fred Hampton, 21 years old, being assassinated by Chicago police because he was indeed a unifying force across races and socioeconomics. But here we have revolutionaries who indeed gave their life, who risked their life, who dedicated their life to Black liberation. Um, it is never about agreeing to all the ways and everything, etc. There is not such a thing as a perfect human being, and anyone who claims the prophet, Messiah, or God is that human being or person, they're lying. But we can recognize and we can honor the sacrifice that these persons have left. Let's not forget, white history is full of controversial characters. Doesn't matter whether you're talking about Julius Caesar, Alexander the Great, Napoleon, or even in more modern times, Winston Churchill or Mother Teresa. Controversial. Another thing for me that's important for us to know is the countries of the Sahel, the three countries of the Sahel, aka Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger, have opted out of the International Criminal Court, as indeed they have mentioned that it is a court that far too overwhelmingly is judging, jailing, sentencing uh, not only African leaders but leaders from the South. It is undeniable, notably when we see that. Those of Western nations and powerful nations really escape the wrath of those international justice courts. Perfect example being a certain Benjamin Netanyahu, who is still received in great fanfare in New York, in Washington, whether he goes to the White House or he goes to the United Nations. And last but not least, as we speak about, we still hear about the fate of what's happening in Gaza. It is an absolute tragedy. How often do we see Black Palestinians being represented on the screen? How often do we hear about them? Even as I watch Al Jazeera, has there? I can't remember any mention of Black Palestinians. And don't get me wrong, in the face of war crimes, in the face of humanitarian crimes, some will say genocide. Speaking of Black Palestinians may absolutely not be an element to focus about. But for us who are Black, fully knowing that prior to what's going on now, Black Palestinians did experience anti Black racism, even in Palestine, just as Black Jews, Black Israelis did face anti Black racism in Israel. We must not forget about them, as we must not forget about the lack of coverage regarding what's happening in the largest humanitarian crisis in the world right now. Sorry to disappoint many, it's not in Gaza, it's in Sudan. Nowhere close to the same coverage. Congo is also still suffering, Haiti is still suffering. Uh, no matter my views on religion, I have to say it. Black Christians in Nigeria, especially northern Nigeria, are victims of jihad by Boko Haram and other terrorist groups that are killing them because they are black and Christians. All of these elements that basically make it that we must not in our great black pride, black consciousness, all our conversations of black love coming together, etc., we must not forget about the fate of those other black people we don't hear about. And when I say we don't hear about, indigenous blacks in Australia, aka Aborigines. We have blacks in India, the Dalit, lowest class, but we also have the Sidis, the descendants of Africans enslaved in India and other indigenous communities across Asia that we never hear about, just as we rarely hear about the fate of uh, Afro descendants in the Americas, in South America. So I think it's important. I want to make sure that we do remember such as we have our conversations.
All right. Thank you for opening up with that. And now we have a comment here from Chaotic Truth Live saying Assata Shakur was a horrible person. Are there
And,
people
and
who feel that is true?
like I said, and I'm not offended by that comment. Uh, Absolutely not. I mean, look, I did say it. Controversial. I went right in there. I did mention she may have murdered. I'm saying may have because I do not know for certitude. Maybe she did. You see, I'm not hiding from it. But let's be honest here. When we look at white history, how many horrible persons are not there that are celebrated? As a general rule, in terms of black knowledge and consciousness, their heroes are our oppressors. So let's ask, I'm assuming it's a brother, Chaotic Truth Live. Wasn't Churchill a horrible person? I mean, there was a famine in India that he literally was blind to. Wasn't George Bush a horrible person when we think about Katrina? I mean, I can go down the list. All the French presidents and all the American presidents, including Obama, by the way, when we see what has happened to the fate of Libya, and even he apologized, recognizing that was his biggest geopolitical blunder that led to the deaths of thousands upon thousands of people. So when we say Assata Shakur, and let's say whether she did kill that one white cop in the context, Charlie Kirk fans loving to talk about context, in the context of the times that she was in. American presidents, horrible people, such as Trump and before him, French presidents, British prime ministers, we can go down the list. So, no, I'm not offended. I just wonder in taking the time to write that Hatsata Shakur was a horrible person, is his brother able to recognize the context of the time that she was in and the cause for which she stood for? Because there were people who did disagree with brother Martin Luther King and brother Malcolm X and brother Nelson Mandela when they were alive. But when saying they're horrible, are you being truthful? Are you being objective? Are you being black and proud? And don't get me wrong, you can be black and proud and disagree with someone and still recognize that they're standing for the cause. You just don't agree with everything that they stand for.
What are some things that you would suggest Africans in Africa to move forward the cause of Pan-Africanism?
That's an excellent question. So you make me think here of the year of return. When we have many African Americans doing the DNA test and basically moving to go establish themselves in countries such as Ghana and Benin. You make me think of black celebrities doing the DNA test and discovering ancestry in Gabon, such as Samuel L. Jackson, Cameroon, such as Oprah, Eddie Murphy, etc. You also make me think of looking at some of the great productions of the past, such as Shaka Zulu with Henry Seeley. The connection that has to be made is one in which the black race has to know one another across the Atlantic in terms of Africa and the Americas, but also across the Pacific in terms of Africa, India, Australia. I mean, we are here talking every Black History Month. A test that I run when I'm invited at events is who even has heard about Malik Kambar? Malik Kambar, African boy a boy kidnapped from Africa who ended up becoming the vizier, basically prime minister, a warfaring prime minister of the Deccan states in what today we will call India, Bangladesh, resisting white invasions, white Muslim invasions. How many of our black people know about him? How many of our black people, when we talk about knowledge, know about um, about Abraham Ganibal? Abraham Ganibal, the grandfather of Alexander Pushkin, the father of Russian literature. He was African. So what I mean by this is we need to know each other more. We need to be able to make those connections. And when I say knowing, we need to teach about a global Black history, a Black history that when we speak, for example, about African Americans, indeed, I absolutely understand why, example, we talk about 1619, aka African Americans starting from the memory of slavery. But let us go further back. Let us reconnect with the continent. Let us talk about, just as, for example, Afro Brazilians, where they have kept more of a spiritual connection to the roots, and they can speak about Angola, they can speak about Mozambique. When you see, for example, capoeira originating from Africa, when you go to Salvador da Bahia, you see the Afro spirituality live right there in your face, their hair, the skin color, the connection, the attires. We need to know each other more. And an example for this, let us give each other African names, African American names. Let us make sure that the heroes who have stood for us, their names are not forgotten. Where are all the black kids named Mandela? Where are all the kids named, King after Martin Luther King? Let us do what others, even when they say they love black culture, they're not exactly calling their kid Mandela. They're not exactly calling their kids Obama. It is for us to do it. It is for us to recognize that, uh, you know, um, Frederick Douglass is not just an African American hero. He is a hero for the entire black race and a hero for the whole of humanity. It is for us to spread the knowledge that Zumbi dos Palmares is not just a Brazilian hero. He's celebrated across Brazil by blacks, but he should be celebrated worldwide, just as Malik Kamba should be celebrated worldwide by the global black population. We need to know our heroes so we can stand as equals. You know, Dr. Vibe, as an educator who has gone to high schools or the four school boards in Ottawa here, one of the things that always shocked me was about how black high schoolers almost always, I don't want to say always, almost always never had a reply when asked, who is the black equivalent to Alexander the Great, to Julius Caesar, to Napoleon, to Hitler? Which historical figure comes to your mind? They had no clue. When you ask them, who died to save you? And there was an experiment, a social experiment that was done in the streets of New York City, in putting Marcus Garvey, I think Martin Luther King or Malcolm X and Jesus. The majority of our black people would pick Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ who is to come back, it's a fiction story. Don't misunderstand me, my people. The Jewish preacher who lived 2,000 years ago is not some divine figure that's to come back 2,000 years later, rapture or no rapture. It's a myth that was deified, and he was not the first character in history to have suffered such. But Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Marcus Garvey, those are our heroes, the people who stood for us. Uh, uh, I can give so many names in history that our own youth don't know. And you can easily see in high school how it creates a different mindset when a child, a youth, and an adult, even in an office space, when they know where they come from versus when they don't know. It is tragic.
Good stuff. Adoa EI says FBA.
For National Black Americans, yes, I know about that. And I don't participate in black ethnocentrism. I absolutely agree that we must recognize uh, the particularity of the African American ethnicity. Example, when you have Africans uh, in the United States, example, I give an example, like Ilhan Omar is a Black American, while Jasmine Crockett is an African American. But the recognition of African American particularities, history, and culture has to be celebrated as part of the beauty, the glory, and the differences in the global blackness, not as a tool of division, such as is used by many who claim ADOS, or FBA, and become tools of white supremacy of the Republicans in dividing the black vote, in dividing the black community, as if the white cop, racist or not, who is shooting at a black youth or black adult cares about whether they're born in Africa or they're born in the United States, whether they are African or Caribbean or they're African American. That's ridiculous.
Okay, we're going to move on to our next conversation topic. And our next conversation topic is anti-immigration protests and sentiments in UK, France, Canada, and the US. And also just want to remind people, if you want to call in, you can call in via your phone, via your laptop, desktop, tablet. Go to your favorite browser, put in callme.ro.com and use the code F and put it in the code FSP L8L and also put in your name and hit the join conversation button. So let's get to anti-immigration protests and sentiments in the US and in Canada. Oh, actually,
Yes.
you know what? Before we go there, Dr. Tachi has a comment that I just put up. She goes, exactly, FBA is divisive. They may as well be Black MAGA. We are all part of the diasporic African community. All right.
I'm coming to agree with that because some of the rhetoric that these brothers and some of our sisters, it's literally anything but claim an African heritage, as if white supremacy forgets that this black skin originates from Africa. Divisive, dangerously divisive, and notably contributing to dividing the black vote, but also the black emotivity in regards to things that happen. I mean, we will talk about this further down the road, but when you notably find black people trying to sanitize, legitimate the rhetoric of people such as Charlie Kirk, I mean, they might as well be trying to sanitize the rhetoric of people of the Klan. It's ridiculous. It's dangerous.
Okay. Now let's get to anti-immigration protests and sentiments in the UK, France, Canada, and the US. Go ahead, Cesar.
Well, where to begin? In London, there was a very large protest, anti-immigration protest, last weekend, if I'm not mistaken, which assembled estimates speak of 125 to 150,000 people. Now, it's easy to paint it as a racist protest against immigration, all these white people against immigration, etc. But no, 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 no. I refuse to participate in such. The reason I say this is that, yes, it is anti immigration, but we need to be careful here. I've always said it, mismanaged immigration leads to growing, how can I put it? Growing insecurity, growing issues of integration. It leads to more division. So, yes, we can address, even condemn the anti immigration slash racist nature of much of the rhetoric in those protests, but we cannot and we must not be hypocrites to the fact that bad immigration policies, notably failed integration. You cannot be receiving X amount of hundreds of thousands of newcomers and not have the means in regards to the education, the housing, the employment to surprise yourselves that they're not being integrated. In England, there was a particular famous case of the, oh, I'm having a memory blank here, but um, uh, gangs kidnapping and raping young white girls. Uh, Basically, Pakistani gangs are doing such. Brown gangs, sex trafficking young teenage white girls. Of course, it got extrapolated to being much more than it was. But one victim, whatever her skin color, but in this case, there was a targeting of brown men targeting white women. One victim is one victim too many. And the attempt to hide it in order to avoid a polarization in terms of racism has contributed to the fires where you have such people as Tommy Robinson. Many may not know him, but he's a right wing figure in the UK, but notably Elon Musk. Basically, throwing themselves and adding fuel to the fire. We have to be able to denounce such. These sentiments have notably echoed when you see in France. So many people may not know this, but the the leading anti-immigration politician of France is none else than Eric Zemmour, whom I've already talked about here on the show. But Eric Zemmour himself would denounces immigration, integration issues, notably in terms of crime and the birth rate of immigrants compared to those of French women. Understand, white French Judeo-Christian women. Eric Zemmour himself is actually an African from Algeria of Jewish descent who comes from a family where his uncles were notorious gangsters in Paris in the 70s, and he himself has three children. So you see the how interesting the how do you call that? How interesting it is that the most anti-immigrant advocate in France himself comes from an immigrant background, just as right here in Canada, US, some of the most anti-black rhetoric can be pronounced by black people. In Canada, there is a growth of anti-Indian, and I think it's fair to say anti-Indian and anti-Sikh sentiment growing, and very much focused, Dr. Vibe. I'm sure you heard about this in Brampton. You know how Brampton has gone from white to brown and more brown. And again, the same type of rhetoric that comes in terms of mismanagement of immigration leads to integration issues, housing, employment, etc., and thus a growth of racism and other negative sentiments and sentiments that spilled onto notably example the Jewish community in terms of rise of anti-Semitism. But it's not exclusive to here. We look at, for example, I was reading about um, growth of anti-Ukrainian sentiments in Poland because the war is lasting longer than anyone would have thought, and therefore the refugees that were welcomed, white like us, similar culture, Slavic people, Ukrainian, Polish, but the overstaying the welcome, and in the U.S., how to ignore the very nature of ICE. ICE. Let's be fair. Barack Obama did deport more people and Trump, and if I'm not mistaken, more than any president ever. Uh, Arguably, because I think was it Truman or maybe Eisenhower may have deported more, but Obama did deport more than Biden and Trump. But it is in the way that the Trump administration is doing such, kind of like that TV show. I think it was called Cops, Bad Boys, Bad Boys. You know that song, in which to bring in the camera, make the theatrics. The chaining the people, the plane. What is it? Alligator Alcatraz. This type of rhetoric, and Yes, indeed. It is working. The fear is setting in, but at what cost? Oh, so Trump is bragging there's no more illegal immigration in the United States, if you actually believe that. But we saw lately the video of an ICE agent who shoved this Latina woman. He basically charged at her like a football player. This, sure, you can disagree with her immigration status, deport her, and all that, but is that a way to treat someone? Is that a way to treat someone physically weaker than you, smaller than you, visibly in fear? This lady was not posing a threat. That video, that sequence, very much illustrates what I could call the violent, barbaric nature of what immigration has come to be under Trump. And don't get me wrong, again, no hypocrisy, separation of children and parents, and even putting a children or even parents in so-called cages did not just start with Trump, but an entire theatrical nature to it, to humiliate, to basically, to use the very language that Trump would use, make others non-white, because they are white illegal in the US. We are not exactly seeing them being treated that way or even being deported, but to make those non-white immigrants look like parasites, look like invaders. It is very dangerous. It feeds racism. And as so many people, when I look at, for example, Governor Newsom passing the law that you can't cover your face, is it really that hard to suspect that some white supremacist, racist militia are taking part into these raids and as such contributing to the growth of the resentment? Dr. Vab, you heard about the shooting that happened at a nice office. The tension is rising. The tension is rising. Dr. Vibe, I said it would be a hot summer. Winter is long.
Do you feel that the actions are meant to to increase tension so the current president can bring in more force?
Absolutely. And not just more force, but this is right out of the playbook of fascism. Yes, let us call it what it is. But, in look, we can find lots of faults to Donald Trump, but the man has been honest about his intentions. So those who voted for him, just as those who did not vote for him, are complicit of his actions. The man clearly said it. Create a tension, create a situation, lead to an event that would lead to more restriction of liberties, and who knows if it doesn't lead to creating a situation in which he would impose a third mandate or an ongoing second mandate. Is it that far fetched to imagine such a thing? I mean, we go back 80 years ago. Why did FDR ended up being the longest serving president of the United States? Because there was World War II. And Trump has been using the language of America is at war, despite every court rejecting this notion that illegal immigration constitutes a state of war. There is no entity of immigrants who are coming in, whether they're from Venezuela or Mexico or from Congo and Haiti. They're not coming here, or even from India and China. They're not coming here with, let us invade the United States. It's us immigrants versus Americans, or us immigrants, aka non-white, versus white America. No. But this is the rhetoric that he's been saying a year ago. The rhetoric he's been saying for a while in regards to the invaders, in regards to the parasites. This is straight out of fascism. This is straight from Joseph Goebbels, the propaganda minister of Adolf Hitler. We have to be able to make those parallels because, in terms of American history, those parallels only belongs to the times of white supremacy reigning supreme, and in terms of a time back in the 1930s when America was flirting with fascism.
Will we continue to see these sentiments rise for the near
Absolutely.
future?
I have no reason to think it would lower. This president, but it's not just in the U.S. I'm looking across. I'm looking at France, that is ongoing a constitutional crisis, with more and more people wanting for President Macron to resign, and even a change of constitution from the fifth to a potential sixth republic. I'm looking at UK, in which Prime Minister Keir Starmer has come out denouncing openly the white supremacists. I'm looking at Canada, with a rise not only of anti-Semitism, of Islamophobia, but also of racism, and governments having to tackle more and more hate rhetoric, but also hate actions, uh, beyond the Israel Palestine conflict, but also the very nature of something we talked about, Dr. Vibe, change in demographics, more social activism, notably online. We are living in a time, in terms of growing tensions, in which you have uh, many in the white majority, aka many will technically will be as white supremacists, will claim they're worried about the changes in the country. Don't get me wrong, I am not a hypocrite. If China suddenly had an influx of Africans, we would see similar reactions, just as if some African country had an influx of foreigners from another African country, or from whites, or from China, or India, whatever. It is human. But when it becomes manipulated with a racist, built in, socially constructed rhetoric, it becomes dangerous. And by dangerous, it leads to death, it leads to killing. Let me give a very simple example, Dr. Vibe, for us as a black community. 1992 riots or Rodney King as police brutality recorded. But what many people don't know or don't realize is that shortly before Rodney King, there was a killing for which we must remember this young black youth, this young black girl named Latasha Harlins, who was shot in the head by a Korean grocery store owner who thought she was stealing. Tupac Shakur dedicated uh, his song and video, Keep Your Head Up, to Latasha Harlins. This is in the early 90s. The tensions, the stereotypes, the discrimination that grows even among minorities can lead to dangerous situations. And when you have a white majority, and I'm not putting all white people in the same bag as I speak of notably allies, when you have a fragile white majority that could indeed be called white supremacists, and many of them being openly white supremacists, they put gasoline, they put oil on the fire in order to justify the racist behavior and violent actions that they will have.
Okay, let's move to our final conversation topic. And things are constantly changing in the United States of America. Cesar wanted to talk about the authoritarianism state. Jimmy Kimmel, James Comey, Ilhan Omar, and Jasmine Crockett. Go for it, Cesar.
Well, the importance of this is has now, we're talking about Jimmy Kimmel and James Comey being indicted. Uh, you have a president who can't take a joke, but wants to make sure that he's the biggest bully in the schoolyard. But we saw, as we were speaking earlier in the week, Jimmy Kimmel being branded as the champion of free speech. And now we see James Comey being indicted, while um, the attorney that Trump had at first found no elements to indict him. And of course, he pushed. And, it's a change of the very nature of democracy, in which first you point to the target and then you find the crimes to charge them. It's political. This is not how democracy works. This is how an authoritarian state work, notably in terms of fomenting charges to guilt someone. But this is also a state that is veering further into authoritarianism when we look at the very narratives of Trump, as he was joking in the White House about meeting the president of Somalia and asking him to take Ilhan Omar back. As you know, we were speaking about immigration. It's not about immigration as if Ilhan Omar, a congresswoman from the state of Minnesota. The state of Minnesota has proportionally a large Somali population since the early 90s. You know, anyone remembers Black Hawk Down and all the things that happened there. Ilhan Omar is an American, whether Trump likes it or not. I mean, he can go down the path of, for example, France, Eric Zemmour, in what's growing more and more, the notion of remigration, aka making people lose the citizenship in a Western country and ship them pretty much, of deport them back to the country of origin. It doesn't even have to be the country of birth. It has to be the country of origin. It has to be the country of origin. So, indeed, this is the nature of the state of affairs that the United States are in. And of course, our sister Jasmine Crockett. Jasmine Crockett being identified more and more as a target for the white supremacists in the following the memorial, the religious, political, uh, Christian nationalist memorial of Charlie Kirk, and for them to further and further target Jasmine Crockett. The very brave sister Jasmine Crockett. This authoritarian state is not a state of free speech. It speaks of cancel culture, that the Democrats were doing. And I am on record, I oppose cancel culture. So now they're speaking about, what is it? Consequence culture. You are free to speak what you wish, but you are not free of the consequences of what you speak of. That sounds like snowflakes, the very accusation they were giving to the Democrats a few years ago. And that's exactly what they're doing, on top of, indeed, this weaponization of justice, a weaponization of justice in which uh, those to the right, Republicans, MAGA, and notably Black MAGA, try to paint it as if political violence is only on the left, when the FBI, but even police authorities across Western nations are very clear. Political violence, although it is present on both the left and right side of the spectrum, of the political spectrum, is more present on the right side and far right side of the spectrum. Of course, it becomes sensationalized when there is a terrorist attack by some Muslim person. Of course, when you look at the assassination of someone as Charlie Kirk, no matter how much I can say he didn't deserve to be killed for his words, but the whole aspect of doxing that him and his followers were doing upon liberal professors, all the way to speaking in regards to, a pleasure of death penalties and other practices that are further pushed by those on the right, it is indeed a slippery slope in which eventually Republicans, those on the right, will have to ask themselves. 2026, the midterms elections are coming. 2028, the presidential elections are coming. As we see inflation, the cost of things, but also as we see the situation in Gaza not ending. I mean, Trump every week talks about some great news, some great deal is going to happen regarding Gaza, regarding Ukraine. But as we are seeing more and more tensions and people having a difficult time joining two ends, you know, it is scary time. It is a scary time. And as winter is coming, things don't get cheaper. The Christmas gifts don't get cheaper. The family meal does not get cheaper. Depression increases with winter. Credit card bills tend to increase during the time of the holidays. Dr. Vibe, I am not seeing things getting better, not only in terms of the nature of free speech, of political violence, the cost of life, etc., etc., and as such, indeed, a growing authoritarian rhetoric from Trump and his ally. A little perfect example is what's his name, the so-called war secretary, aka Pete Hegseth, ordering generals, American generals from around the world, to the Pentagon with a message to the journalists that they had to sign documents that they are not to release anything confidential. That is outright authoritarianism. That is straight from a fascist book. I mean, what kind of democracy is this? That's not democracy. You know, if we had gone by that logic in the United States 50 years ago, there would have been no Watergate. Deep Throat, Watergate wouldn't have happened. And of course, if you intend to have an authoritarian state, as in Russia, as in China, as in any dictatorship, no matter how, let's call it liberal of a dictatorship it may seem, you need to control the information. Even by unqualified people as Pete Hegseth, who is definitely not a DEI hire, but actually he is, because when you think about it, what is he? He's just there because he's a white man who was that Trump's likes. But he's totally unqualified. So even calling him a DEI hire would be an insult to DEI because that's not what DEI is about. So indeed, it's an authoritarian state that's growing more and more right in front of us. How much will Americans, not just those on the left, but also on the right, how much will they be able to take? Perfect example, Jimmy Kimmel even thanked people such as Joe Rogan. Jimmy Kimmel even thanked people on the right. And I mean, it's growing in our face.
Question for you before we let you go. Two-part question. What are your suggestions for the citizens in outside of America when it comes to America? The part one.
Okay, it's the same as if you had asked me this regarding France or the UK or Canada. Keep yourself informed. I do tell people social media can absolutely be taxing, but it's important that we do have those exchanges. It's important that we have those conversations with people who don't think like us. I do not engage with the notion that I know it all or I'm right on everything. I do not. Even just today, I did share with some of my friends regarding an exchange I had on Candace Owens, also known as Clandace Owens or Kundace Owens, for those who understand. But I am not claiming that I know everything, that I'm right on everything, but let us have the exchange because we can learn from one another. And just as we saw the example earlier in the week regarding the so called rapture that didn't happen, many people live physically in the same world slash reality as us, but their minds are on a different vibe. Their minds are completely, and I'm not calling them crazy. I'm not calling them any term that some may even think of derogatory, but they literally live physically in the 21st century. They live on the same day as you and me, but their mind is on another tangent in which they view, hear, and understand the same events, the same information completely differently. Let us keep having the conversation because some of the worst things that come is when you look at, for example, the MAGA movement, completely a logic of a cult where people block their minds, where it becomes physical. And this is notably one of the things that led to the killing of Charlie Kirk. that Tyler Robinson, he did not come from some liberal um, rainbow family, black pride sticker on the car type of thing. Comes from a Republican, conservative, very MAGA family.
And do you have any different suggestions for the citizens who are in the United States who want to put, who are not liking what goes on right now?
I will not blame anyone who is thinking of moving out of the United States to migrate to Canada as a political refugee. I understand people who are moving states, whether it's to go into to move into blue states because they're liberal thinking, or to move into red states because they're more conservative. But I don't think those are the solutions. And in speaking for our people, I go back to what we were talking at from the beginning. Let us learn more about one another. Let us learn more about our Black history, about our Black culture. Let us discover more about one another so that we can indeed build communities of resilience, of knowledge, of sharing, and guess what? Of empathy, but also of resistance. The resistance is not, I am not here advocating for armed conflict or resistance unless we are attacked. Do not get me wrong. I am not a turn the other cheek type of person or some type of pacifist. Absolutely not. But I am here telling our Black people, dig into your Black pride and Black consciousness. Stay away from the division within the Black community. Get your passport. My sister, my brother, get your passport. And when I say get your passport, I'm not saying become a passport bro, aka going to sleep and pretend to a relationship with women in poorer countries, or go on some type of I think the movie was called something about Stella got her groove back
Yeah,
type
Stella
of
got her groove
logic.
back. Yeah.
No, 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 no. This is not me. This is not me. Get your passport so that you can connect with the diaspora. Afro Mexicans are there as Afro Brazilians, as Afro Canadians, and Africans. You have an entire continent that's yours. Do your DNA test. We are an embarrassing community where every weekend we have people will waste money that they work hard for, rightfully complain about the cost of life, and yet every weekend too many go wasted in alcohol, in drugs, in party, and they wouldn't be able to pinpoint to the country of the ancestors in Africa because they don't have the mind to do a DNA test to know about the roots. That is tragic in the 21st century of STEM, science, technology, engineering, mathematics, of mass information, of mass education, of mass communication. We have a Pan-Africanist community. We have a global Black community. Donald Trump, 2026 midterms, 2028 presidential elections, he'll try to stay because he knows that the writing is on the wall. Dr. Vibe, what did I say last time? Brazil, Bolsonaro. The Biden administration was weak to indict, to sentence, and to jail Donald Trump as they should have because they feared either the MAGA movement or they weren't serious about jailing him. Mary Garland, useless. Joe Biden was useless. Justice Roberts, he will be remembered as having corrupted the Supreme Court. Mitch McConnell, he has tainted his legacy forever following January 6th. But for us, for our people, we cannot let ourselves, our narratives, our lives be dictated by the left right pendulum of an America that is so nervous about the loss of majority of the white demographics. It will lead to more violence if we don't have Black communities that are stronger. If we don't have leaders, allow me We are Sunday. Allow me again to give praise and congratulations to our black pastors who stood up denouncing the assassination of Charlie Kirk, yes, but calling out the type of racist, sexist, xenophobic, etc., white supremacist Christian nationalist man that he was. We need more pastors who speak like that. Stop with the charlatanism about Jesus, why Jesus coming back and all that stuff that is inherited from slavery. Just as in Africa, we have charlatan pastors and priests and imams and black rabbis speaking the white supremacist language of the Torah, Bible, and Quran. Let us have black consciousness, black pride, black culture. Embrace the allies who are true. When I say true, I was hesitating about denouncing one of these artists like DJ Khaled. Fake black allies, more and more denounced. But those who are true allies, those who are doing the work, activists, white allies in the protest, let us stand together. Let us be strong. Hot summer, winter's coming. The storm is coming. We're doing all this talk, Dr. Vibe. We're still in the same year as January 20th when
Yep.
he got assermented. We always, like, what is it, 9 months later?
Yep.
Like, the way we're talking, you would think it's like 3 months into it, three years into it. No,
No.
9 months. So
All
much
right.
more to come. Much more to come.
All right. That's a wrap for conversation today. And Dr. Tachi says, yes, get a
Get a
passport.
passport. Get a passport. Get a
Yes,
passport, but have an idea of where to go. I saw a
exactly.
video about some two sisters who went to Tunisia. Two African American sisters went to Tunisia and they were shocked at the anti black racism that they felt. One of them was almost kidnapped. She was physically abused, sexually abused. My people, my people. Free promotion, Dr. Vibe, if you don't mind.
Sure.
AfricanAmericanAncestry.com. My black people, don't waste your money into another pair of Jordans or wigs or at the bottle of champagne. I mean, Dr. Vibe, if you do you mind me telling you something?
Go ahead.
I grew up in France. The part of France where I grew up, look it up on the map. I grew up in the city of Reims. Reims is in the department of Champagne-Ardenne. The champagne that people are spending hundreds of dollars to drink there in the club, I literally come from where the real champagne is from. It's not real. It's not real. You should have seen. I could. You talked to my wife for the first time I took her to France in 2022. She was in shock. Her and her friends visited the wineries and the champagne. They were like, I think you say, excuse my language, WTF, mind, something like that. That's one of those expressions. They were just they were like, over there is not real. It's just marketing, advertising. This is the real stuff. As if I did drink. I'm sharing what others have told me. They were in shock. They were just in shock. That's where I grew up. I grew up in Champagne. That's literally the name of the place. That's where it comes from.
Mhm.
The original, the real, authentic.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? The Timberland from China. I mean, Timberland from China, Timberland from New York, Champagne from Reims. Do your DNA test, my brothers and sisters. Get yourself a passport. Connect with the black community worldwide. When I say worldwide, you have the black community around you from around the world. You have Caribbeans. You have uh, 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 Africans from all over different countries of Africa. You have African Pride Week or whatever it is in your city, in your community. Get to connect in the same way as I do whenever I travel worldwide. Where is the black community? Where's the black business I can support? Let us help each other. Resilience is useless without resistance. Black pride, black knowledge, black love is useless without black socioeconomics. And all of this that I'm saying, and I can say a lot more, is useless without a black identity in the 21st century of knowing where our roots are from on the continent. Because those white supremacists, they all know where the roots are from in Europe. Donald Trump, his original name before I think his grandfather changed it to Trump in America, Donald Trump knows his roots. He talks about it. Scottish mother, father from Germany. They know the roots in Europe. So how come too many of our people don't?
On that note, let's call it a wrap. As always, subscribe to the Dr. Vibe Show on YouTube and hit the notification button. Also, like the Dr. Vibe Show on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, and Substack if you want to advertise your business, product, or service on any of the platforms that I'm on. Please feel free to email me, dr.vibe at the drvibeshow.com. If you want to get a hold of Cesar, email address, president at Roots and Culture Canada. Facebook, he's on Cesar Remy Emery. And also, if you want to watch replays of this epic conversation, Black Canada Talking, and get replays on YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn, just go to Dr. Vibe on any of those platforms, or you can go to my website, www.thedrvibeshow.com. As always, we want to thank everyone for giving their most important thing they have in life, their time to hang out with us. And as always, I like to say, live your life as a dream. If you can dream it, you can make it. Sometimes you have to get small to get stronger. Block assumptions, aim bigger, aim better, aim higher, aim wider. Love, faith, and respect. And if you're not managing your time, manage your energy. And remember to give yourself grace. God bless. Peace to all. Keep the faith while good. And thanks again, Cesar.
Thank you, Dr. Vibe. Just take a quick moment.
Yeah.
You just introduce yourself. Let Dr. Vibe welcome you into the show. As I told you, Dr. Vibe.
No. I welcome and really good to have you here. I didn't want to. You were on a roll. I didn't want to interrupt. You were on a roll, but
In an award created by whites, dominated by whites, run by whites, and you're a billionaire, bro. FYI, I don't. It's probably the first time of the year that I use the word bro.
yes, it is. That's the first time, as long as I've known you, you used it.
My daughter would laugh.
But for many people, the economy ain't great. There we go. I saw that.